Well, hello everybody. Welcome into Thursday edition of the Computer America Show, and of course, it being the second Thursday of the month, it is our All Linux show here on Computer America.
Until showtime.
Marcel Gagné joins us for both hours. It's going to be a lot of fun, as it always is, a wild ride with Marcel, and so we're going to get started momentarily here on the program in about 50 seconds. Everything about Linux and more, it's all on today's show with Monsieur Gagné, Marcel Gagné, Linux expert, Computer America correspondent extraordinaire, here with his wine of the month, and it looks like he's drinking it now. Maybe he can throw a little cheese with that wine, and we begin 2 hours of the Computer America Show coming at you in 20 seconds from now. Okay, 10 seconds.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live, it's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. It's the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show about computers and technology. Computer America is heard around the world and coast to coast. And I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And it's our All Linux show today. It's all about Linux, and more Linux. Yes, exactly. If you have any questions about Linux, thinking about using this amazing operating system, certainly this is the show that you need to tune into here on a beautiful Thursday morning, or actually afternoon, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday to Friday.
Well, it's all relative depending on when you wake up. So if you get it past noon, might as well be morning.
Or of course, what time zone you're in too will certainly affect all of that.
Well, yeah, but I don't think we really cater to the Indian audience around Computer America, do we?
Well, perhaps. I know we have a lot of Indian listeners.
Yeah, I mean we do, but okay, whatever.
Whatever. Okay.
I just realized that I'm gonna have to get my own voiceover work when I start doing my own shows.
Yeah.
Because I can't exactly have it's like. And with your host Craig Crossman, because the voiceover.
That's right. We'll have to get Rocky to redo a new one for you.
Yeah, I'm thinking instead it's just going to be a redub of Craig. I don't know if you've ever seen the show 2.5 Men. I think it went off the air last year.
Yeah. I have.
Right. Well, I'm just gonna get a redub of, instead of men. It'll just say Ben. And it'll be the entire opening theme, but with Ben instead of men.
This show is all about me.
I think it's going to go well. I like the direction.
I see. Okay. Now, if you have a comment for us, we'd certainly love to hear from you. Pick up the phone, give us a call, 347-884-8881, or go to our website, ComputerAmerica.com, and everything you need to know about us is there. Our live video streaming is there. No, not you, Marcel. So we'll get to it momentarily. Actually, anything else? I'm just getting Marcel on here because he's just being silly, and I want to get him on here.
Anything else? No. Like Craig was about to say, everything that we do is over at ComputerAmerica.com. Go check that out, including all the notes that we are going to be talking about today. Yes. So don't feel pressure to write any of this down. Just sit back, listen, enjoy, learn. And everything is well formatted over at ComputerAmerica.com. So
yeah, and we'll tell you more about how to get the cheat notes after I get Marcel on here. And remember, Marcel Gagné is the author of several books, including Moving to Linux, Kiss the Blue Screen of Death Goodbye, and now in its 2nd edition. Other books include Moving to Ubuntu Linux, and his newest title is Moving to Free Software. He was also a Linux Journal monthly columnist. His column was titled Cooking with Linux. Marcel was also a regular columnist for Linux Magazine. He was senior editor and columnist for Ubuntu Magazine and a number of other publications. Please welcome author and columnist and Computer America correspondent Marcel Gagné to the show. Marcel, welcome into Computer America. How are you?
I'm fine. I suppose I have to behave myself now, right?
Yeah, no, you don't have to.
Because now I'm officially on the air. You know, it's like when I'm in the Hangouts and I can do all sorts of crazy stuff. But now I have to behave myself and act like a one of those things. You know, professional.
Yes.
That's it.
Oh,
that's it.
Well,
Ben, how
yeah.
are you, man?
I'm doing well, doing well. Thanks for joining us once again for another great month. And real quick, before we really truly get started, I'm expecting a call from one of our listeners, although you know, I don't think he's going to make it today. But I just want to tell you that about 2 weeks ago we had a caller, and unfortunately we couldn't let him on the air. It was when we had a Mad Magazine.
Dick DiBartolo.
Dick DiBartolo. Yeah, and
Love that guy.
yeah, he's great. But like, he called in and he's like, he called from France. He was from France, and he called in saying that he wanted to go on the air and tell everyone about how great Linux is and how it's the only operating system for everyone out there. How versatile it is and how everyone should be using it. And I'm like, that's great. You know, if you want to send us a message, we'll read that on the air. He didn't send us a message, or if you want to call back during our Linux show, you know, we'd love for you to tell the audience that. But like, he called from France. He had a very thick Arabic accent, and he's like,
France?
you probably,
Okay, yeah.
It's like, you probably can't understand me because of my thick French accent. And I'm like, I know the difference between the two, but you know, but very kind guy. But he was very passionate about Linux, which I think is something you find often in the Linux community, is that people are just, you know, they not only do they, like, yeah, there's that fringe, and I'm going to call them a fringe, that hate other operating systems, but there's a vast majority of Linux users out there who are just very passionate and very happy that they get to work with Linux.
Well, that's very cool. I like working with Linux. I do. I truly do. Can I tell you my Windows 10 horror story?
Sure.
I know it's a Linux show, but see, every once in a while I have to boot up a Windows machine because I have clients who use Windows. So it's like, well, you know, I'm actually doing this, and you need to, you know, this is what I'm doing, and something is not working right. It's like, okay, I'll boot up my Windows machine because I keep one handy just for such emergencies. Well, of course, it's been like 3 months since I booted it up, okay? And the first thing that happened was I had to wait like 2.5 hours while it patched itself or did goodness knows whatever. I mean, I don't know. So you sat there waiting, you're running updates, yeah, because you don't really have a choice. It doesn't give you a choice. It just goes ahead and does it. Mm-hmm. So you sit there, you wait. And finally, 2.5, 3 hours later, I get to actually do some work. Okay, that's cool. That's great. Which takes me all of about 15 minutes, okay? And then there's this message that pops up and says, you know, you really should be installing Windows 10, okay? So it's like, well, you know, and it tells you you've got until July 29th to get it free, blah, blah, blah. And, of course, in my head, I'm going, you know, at some point, I'm probably going to have to support Windows. You know, I'm probably going to have to help somebody with Windows 10. And of course, you know, it's going to have, you know, the Bash shell to, you know, the Linux shell to you know, in replacement of Command Com and so forth. So it might be good for me to actually be familiar with this, you know. So fine, I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it. 24 hours later, okay. So it starts doing this thing, and it says I may reboot several times during the process.
So you did the Express install. That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like I'll reboot several times. So you let it go, and it's downloading stuff, and then it does something or other, and it does something else, and then you get to the point after several hours where it says that it's at 100%, and now it says it's going to reboot and start installing. And it's like, what? You mean, like, nothing's happened yet? We've just downloaded stuff? Anyway, the point was that it was like a day later, you know, not quite a day later, maybe like about 18 hours later, constant reboots, all sorts of things. Finally, and of course it sat at 99% for like hours, like, you know, hours at 99%. It's like, how can you say you're at 99% for hours?
We actually got an email. Someone who sent us a tech support question. He's like, yeah, you know, I'm trying to install Windows 10, and it's sitting at 99%, and I'm 4 hours in. What's wrong? And Yeah, that's what we had to tell him. You just have to wait it
Yeah,
out.
you just wait. So I waited. So I waited, and then finally, like I said, 18 hours later, whatever. It's the next day anyway. The next day, the next afternoon, it's finally done. I click the reboot button. It's like, get ready for your awesome Windows 10 experience. So it boots up onto a VGA screen. Okay, like it's lost my screen resolution. So it's a VGA screen. So my 23-inch flat panel monitor is displaying 1024 by 768. All right,
Glorious.
which is glorious. Okay, and so I think, okay, fine. Obviously, I have to download I have to download a driver for the screen. Like I in 2016, I'm blown away that I have to download a driver for my screen, especially since this is only like a 4-year-old PC. I mean, it's not like it's ancient here. It's an Acer desktop system. It's 3-4 years old. Anyway, so I go, okay, I'll just go on the internet and do this. It doesn't have a driver for the network card. So not only do I have 1024 by 768, I can't even go on the freaking internet to download the driver for this thing. So I turned it off. I haven't.
You worry about it later.
I haven't looked at it in 2 weeks now, but it's just like honestly.
Yeah, the Windows 10 install process was supposed to be very
Simple.
yeah, very simple, very streamlined. But I have heard, and it's just kind of hard. I mean, that Windows has to do this on thousands of different computers with thousands of different pieces of hardware from thousands of different makers. Like it's not the easiest thing, and for Windows to promise it was going to be easy for everyone, I think was a little reaching.
For the record, Ben, you would be hard-pressed to find a single Linux distribution out there that would not boot up a desktop perfectly, run the display perfectly, bring up networking perfectly in 2016. Might I point out that it's 2016? You can give me that argument 10 years ago, but it's 2016.
I don't think saying the current year is an argument. I see it on the internet all the time. It's 2016. What's up with yada yada yada? What does Linux do better than Windows that makes it so compatible?
Sorry.
That makes it so compatible.
I think part of it is that there's been a commitment for a long time to support for huge amounts of hardware, and most of it just gets rolled into. It's only like a few months ago that they started saying, we're not actually going to continue rolling everything into 386. It's like we're going to actually at some point here abandon 16-bit. Sorry, 32-bit. Sorry, 32-bit, not 16-bit. 32-bit. Sorry, I don't know what I was thinking there.
Maybe it was just because it was geographical. Maybe because you're in Canada, there was a problem. I don't know.
Anyway, let's leave that one alone. So that was my Windows 10 horror story. I just thought I'd share that.
So all right. So here's what we want you to do. We want you to download the. You're watching the live video stream again. Any page at ComputerAmerica.com. It's there. However, also if you go, you'll see at Computer, when you click on the Linux selection, you'll see a big thing that says Cheat Notes. That's the Computer America Cheat Notes that Marcel designs for us. It's dated today, July 21st, 2016. That's entertainment. And you can see everything there. We have images, we have topics, we have most importantly, we have the links to the stories. There's some images. It's all there for you to follow along. So and head over to ComputerAmerica.com. It's also on the Blog Talk Radio link as well, the cheat notes. Just click on it and you can read everything that we're talking about. And we highly recommend that you do that. Of course, if you're watching the live video stream, Ben will also be displaying it as he's doing right now. Of course, you can't click on the links there. Ben will click on them for you. But it's just there's so many different ways that you can access what we're doing today. Whether it be in the live video stream or downloading the cheat notes or doing both. So it's all there for you. All right.
Just one other thing before we continue.
Yes.
It's July 21st, and I realize this is a day late, but that's one giant leap for mankind.
Oh.
Just, want to point out that it was on the 20th of July, 1969, that humans first set foot on the moon.
Ah.
So I want to commemorate that. A day late, but I want to commemorate it.
Yes. And how many days was that before the aliens would have their space station there? probably beat us by quite some time. Of course,
But they were hiding. They were hiding on the dark side of the moon.
Exactly.
Anyway.
All right. All right. So
They're on
right.
Mars. You hear about that? Before we really truly get in earnest,
the first hour will be up.
Our first hour is almost over, dude. But continue.
I don't care. We gotta get into this because we've been talking about it every single day, and it's probably gonna come up eventually. Actually, I haven't even read the notes, but what do you think of Pokemon Go? I know it was just recently released in Canada, I believe.
Yes, actually, it was released in Canada like yesterday or the day before. Like, it's only been a couple of days. Although, frankly, people have been running it since since it was released in the States. People just, they've been downloading the APKs, and long before it was actually even released here. I mean, there were already, Poke Gyms and Pokemon that you could go and collect and stuff like that. I'm totally fascinated by this. I'm fascinated by it because, you see people walking around with their heads down on a phone, okay? And, like, a month ago, you would have just thought that they were sitting there, bringing in their music or, or checking, or reading their email or something. That's what you assumed, okay? Now you see somebody walking around with their head down looking at a phone, so they've got their phone and they're walking around like this, like this, You think they're looking for Pokemon. So in a month, we've gone from they're doing something with their phone, chatting with friends or whatever, to they're looking for Pokemon, and
exactly.
And it's fascinating. It's fascinating because it's getting people out there. I mean, I don't know if you played Ingress. I played Ingress briefly when it came out. And I'll be honest, I got bored with it fairly quickly. But I thought that was a cool idea. But the whole Pokemon thing it's fascinating because of the idea that you're taking this make-believe universe, the Pokemon characters. Mm-hmm. And you're bringing them into, if you'll pardon the expression, the real world. Like, I don't know if you've done it. I downloaded it on my phone, and of course, it's as though I've looked at some. Yeah, and you're walking around your house, and there's a Bulbasaur sitting there on my couch, and you flick the Pokeball at it, and you pick up your first Pokemon, and it's really kind of cool, I have to admit. I won't be playing it any further than this. Yesterday actually I was out with my son and we were wandering around collecting Pokemon, and it's like, it's cool for a bit, but A, he doesn't have his own phone, and B, so until he has his own, I mean, he's 9, right? I'm not giving him a cell phone yet. Yeah. But me, it was like, okay, that was fun, like, for one day. So I've actually already deleted it off my phone. But it is very cool. I'm completely fascinated by just how it's captured people's imaginations, and not just in one place, but like around the world.
Around the world.
It's a global phenomenon, just utterly, completely fascinating. So and I think, I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that it's a sign of things to come. That immersive gaming experience that goes beyond just your screen. That puts you in touch. I mean, I know that we've been gaming with people online on the internet, but we're going to start increasingly marrying, the real world with the, with the fake world, virtual reality, augmented reality, and so forth. It's really cool.
But the difference here is that you're not, as opposed to gaming online, you're actually going outside and actually meeting people. Mm-hmm. So it's become sort of a social phenomenon.
It is, but we're not that far away. We're not that far away, Craig, from and I've seen demonstrations of this that are really pretty impressive using some of the VR headsets, where it's like the people are in the room with you. Yeah. We're entering an age of teleconferencing where it looks, we're not quite at holograms yet, but it's like you're sitting in a room with a bunch of people. So. Yeah. Yeah. So you're all meeting in this virtual space. Microsoft / Mojang / Minecraft released an educational version where basically teachers can build a classroom in the Minecraft world, and kids join a class in a Minecraft world, and I'm, I just that's. Have you read? We talked about. I know we talked about this book, and I don't remember if either of you guys have actually read it. But Ready Player One, you seen it? Or sorry, not seen it.
I
It's gonna
have
be a
heard of
movie.
it. Yeah, and I remember talking about it with you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did read it. Read it, okay? I mean, it's Ready Player One coming to life.
I don't know if you
Because
I don't know if you saw the movie Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It's like that's too bad.
Winter Soldier, yes, I've seen
Yeah.
Winter Soldier. I haven't seen
No,
the new one.
no. That's my point. Is that there was a scene there with Robert Redford, and they're all sitting in virtual reality. They're doing
Yes.
conference calls, and you can see that they're. So I know that's where we're kind of headed,
Yep.
something like that. But we got things to talk about, and
Yeah.
today's wine
All
and
right,
only
all right,
20
all
minutes after the hour, so let's do it. I see the wine that you're drinking, which is
Yes. Okay, the wine I'm drinking is, and I open up the bottle just for you. Because, I wouldn't do this otherwise, right? It's a Villa Regia. It's from the Douro region of Portugal. And that's my wine pick for today. It's actually if you're watching on Hangouts, you can probably see this. It's a deep red.
Mhm.
It's got nice tannins. You can feel you can feel it at the back of your tongue. That lovely little almost Cabernet sort of feel at the back of your tongue is there. But it's got a little tiny bit of pepperiness like you would get with a Shiraz. It's a nice wine. It's a nice, easy drinking wine. And in my I've been lately on this kick, as you know, of trying to find some inexpensive wines that are actually good wines. They're actually good drinking wines, and this is one of them. Actually, the 2014 is probably the best I've had of this one so far. I've been buying it for a couple of years now, and it's continuing to improve. Now I realize that the conditions, the growing conditions in any particular year has a lot to do with what the wine winds up tasting like. But the 2014 Villa Regia, Portugal, Douro, is definitely a good pick. And like I said, really, really inexpensive. Up here in Canada, sells for about $8 a bottle, or just $7.98 or something like that a bottle, which means you guys can probably get it for like $4. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Nice wine.
It is. It's very nice. Highly
let's-
recommend it, and it was good with the cheese that I was having earlier.
So let's get to news, rumors, and etc. Again, this is on the cheat notes if you're watching, and we're going to start talking about. We talked about Raspberry Pi and you're blue in the face, but evidently here we go, another teeny tiny computer that runs Linux. And
yeah, I mean, well, there was the Pi Zero, which was sent out, from the Raspberry Pi people, the Pi Zero, which was sent out. It was like a $5 computer, and that was, that was pretty cool. But like the Raspberry Pi, you remember the whole thing with the Raspberry Pi? It doesn't actually have anything on it, like as in it's hardware, but you have to have at the very least a micro SD card with an operating system loaded. Otherwise, you don't get anything. I mean, you don't even get a BIOS screen. Like there's nothing there. And although the Pi 3 has Wi-Fi integrated now, up until the Pi, the Pi 2. The original Raspberry Pi and the Pi 2 and even the Pi 2B, you needed to have some kind of an external, plug-in to be able to get networking on this thing. So this thing is called the Omega 2, and as I wrote in the notes, I really wish they hadn't called their company Onion. I suspect it's probably a play on Apple. I don't know. I don't know, but the company is called Onion, and of course, what bugs me about it is, there's the satirical website, The Onion.
Right.
So it's like, really, guys, if you're gonna come up with a vegetable, couldn't you have called it broccoli or something?
See, I thought you jump all over that. I mean, it's pie, it's an onion, and you do cooking with Linux, so I mean, you of course have to cook with onions.
Well, yeah. In that case, then why not call it shallot? Or the garlic, or something. You can also cook with a whole lot of other things. You can cook with Parmesan cheese. Maybe you could have called it asparagus. That would have given it an air of class. But come on, onion. I don't want to make fun of the guys, but onion, really? We have to come up with onion? Anyway, this is like a little $5 computer on a chip. It already runs Linux. This is actually what's kind of interesting about it. It already runs Linux. It's already booted. It isn't booted. It's already installed. So you actually don't have to do anything. You just plug it into something, and away it goes. Yeah, I love the little video that you're playing there. Ooh, I must, yeah, you actually do. When I got mine originally, when I got my first Pi, I spent like a day wondering why, and I had bought two at the time because I thought, I'll do something with one, I'll do something with the other. It's a good thing I had the second one because the first one, of course, didn't work. I plugged it in and it's like, well, this isn't working. Well, let's try the second one. Wait a minute, that's not working either. How come neither of these things boots? And of course, then I found out that, there was no BIOS on it. Anyway, I digress.
So the iMega.
This thing actually already has everything included. Already has Wi-Fi on it. So
Right.
you
It has
power this thing up. Sorry, go ahead, Craig.
It has its own BIOS on it. In other words, you don't get a dead screen.
Well, not just its own BIOS, but its own operating system. Like it already has Linux loaded on it.
Oh, okay, that's even better. Okay.
So you've got Linux with a graphical desktop already loaded on this thing. So it's a $5 computer, not just a $5 computer on a chip that you can then, manipulate to do other things. It's one that you can actually plug in and start to work with immediately, which is, kind of cool. Actually, if you think about it, for $5, it's like, there's obviously you're going to want to do something else with it. I mean, we don't just buy computers and go, hey, it boots, we're done. Nobody does that. But this thing is, already network ready. It's already got Wi-Fi. It's already got its video driver. It's already got the operating system loaded. You can, in fact, just take this thing and fire it up and start working with it. And I'm kind of blown away by just how far this can go. And that sort of ties into the second story that I've got on here. Because, believe it or not, they're kind of linked. I gave you another link next to that which says open source solar. Okay? There's this company out there, or these people out there, and I know that Ben's got the link there. I should bring up the link there. They've decided that one of the ways to get the future happening faster, as far as renewable energy and so forth, is to basically make the technology available open source. It's like, this is how you do it. So there's an article here on Hackaday, open source solar. And what's the size of a standard Europalette? It goes to 15 minutes, can charge 120 mobile forms at a time. Sunzilla. Now, I love the name, of course, because it's a play, Mozilla, FileZilla, all the various Zillas that are out there, as open source software packages. So this is really kind of a neat idea. And I know it's not specifically Linux related, but of course on this show we like to talk about open source, open standards,
Right.
open everything. This is the idea here, is to make it very inexpensive and very easy for somebody to get into solar power generation. And who knows? I may do this. I may not, because I just seem to have not enough time on my hands. But it is a really cool idea.
I completely get the idea that solar needs to be more open source and things like that, because I've never looked at it getting it into my own home, but I know that it's very complicated. Like there's at least down in Florida, the Sunshine State, where you would assume everyone would have solar anyways. Very, very regulated. Takes thousands of dollars to set up. You take specialists and all that kind of thing. If it was open source, not less technical, but open source, kind of create more solutions to put it for the average homeowner, instead of paying another company a few $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, but to put a solar kind of unit up on your roof. If they could find some way to let homeowners do it themselves, that would be very helpful. But I guess it's all the electricity, and they don't like the average person messing with electricity that much. So
I find that a bit of a cop-out for a number of reasons. I realize that you have to, nowadays it's like, well, you have to hire your own electrician and so forth. I mean, I remember my dad building stairs into the basement at a house that we lived in. This is like talking, 40 years ago practically. So he built stairs down into the basement, and he built an extra washroom down there. And then, of course, it had to be wired up. And I was in high school at the time, and I had taken electricity in high school. So I wired up everything in the house going from the panel down to this other washroom. I put the light switches in place. I put the electrical outlets in place. Remember, I'm like a 16-year-old kid at the time, and I've wired up my house. Like yeah, it's complicated. But you know what? There are states where a 14-year-old kid is allowed to use a handgun, but you're not allowed to wire up your own house. Come on, people.
Yeah, I don't think they even offer shop in most high schools down here anymore, let alone anything called electricity. But
yeah, so I took an electricity class, and I wired up this new, the staircase, outlets, lights, everything.
That's interesting.
It's not magical,
Definitely.
It is possible to do these sorts of things. So the idea that it's because you're messing with electricity. Well, then why can't you just hire some electrician in your neighborhood to wire you up so that you're off grid? And there are very few places where you're even legally allowed to be off grid anyway.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
So that argument I don't think is valid. I mean, if I could hire an electrician who actually, or somebody who's registered to do solar work to do it for me, why can't I go off grid? Why isn't that possible? So there are legislative and administrative and what's that other word? Bureaucratic. That's the word I'm looking for. Bureaucratic hurdles to jump before we can do that.
Hey, Marcel, we got to take a break, and then we'll continue on. You're listening to the Computer America Show. Marcel Gagné joins us for both hours. It's our all Linux show. 347-884-8881. We have another news tips bulletin review from Marty Winston coming up, and then we'll be back with more Linux here on our All Linux show on Computer America.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? Not so great, huh? It's a fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they are available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com.
It's so hot, even a drizzle sizzles. Marty Winston with the News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, Dynatrap 3. Growing up, long nights were punctuated by the zaps of insects flying into the high-voltage grid of bug whackers. This week, we got in the half-acre rated Dynatrap 3 for review with a quieter but no less lethal end to those pesky pests. There's a hood over the top, complete with a handy hook for hanging, and a chain comes with it. Next down is a slotted housing that uses an ultraviolet light with a CO2 generator to lure its prey. Beneath that, a small quiet fan draws its captives into custody. At the bottom is the screen chamber from which they can't escape. Mwahaha! It comes with both a cleaning brush and a magnetic screwdriver so you can remove the bottom screen cage for cleaning without losing the the screw. Bottom line, if flying bugs bug you, Dynatrap 3 gives them an invitation to death row they can't resist. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
Thank you, Marty Winston, for that News Tip Bulletin review, and welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 30 minutes past the hour here in the first hour on what has only recently been described as the Linux Show with Marcel Gagné, because we just started recently getting back into the Linux topics, as Craig is so quick to put us back on track. And we can
talk about whatever you want, but the idea is we sort of had a syllabus to go by. So,
well, fine, Professor. Let's stick to the syllabus. Okay.
I love syllabi. I really do.
I hope all of you got your homework in on the desk before class started. Otherwise, it'll be 10 points off. It will be
10
late.
points for 10 points. 10 points off Gryffindor.
Pretty much 10 points late, and so we were just finishing off with the open source solar, that kind of thing, and and then we had to take our break. But unless anything else about open source solar,
yes,
we can.
Yes, actually.
Go for it.
Okay, I'm tying this in. Okay, I'm tying this in, and believe it or not, this is actually gonna go together with what we're gonna talk about even later in the show. Hopefully we get to it at some point. Sorry. Anyway. So I was listening to when I go out for walks, which I do because I try to stay healthy. I try to get out there, enjoy nature as much as possible. I take my phone and I've got a podcast application on my phone, and I listen to podcasts. Right.
You're out there with the phone. You don't play Pokemon. Okay.
Yeah, I only did it for a day. Anyway, so one of the shows I like to listen to is Star Talk. With Neil deGrasse Tyson and his band of rowdies. Mm-hmm. If you want to talk about a show that gets off topic every once in a while, that's a science show, and sometimes you really got to wonder. Anyway, but I love it. I do. I love listening to Star Talk. Anyway, so I was listening to this episode where he interviewed Al Gore. Former Vice President Al Gore.
I heard of him.
Specifically about climate change, the environment, future sources of energy, all that sort of stuff. And as they always do on the show, they've also got an expert. In this case, he's a science journalist who's been writing about climate and energy sources and so forth. So, the idea of solar was definitely part of this. But one of the interesting things that came up in the discussion was how cheap things have become. Okay, there were things that we never saw coming 30 years ago, and one of the things we never saw coming is the idea that computing, computing, access to, computer power and so forth would essentially become free. All right, right now, all of us can get, 5 gigabytes of free storage off Google Drive, off Amazon, off Microsoft, and so forth. If you want to, you can sign up for like a half a dozen service and wind up with about 50 gig worth of storage or more, depending on who you sign up with. So storage, online cloud storage, which was like wickedly expensive at first, is essentially free for most people. Google lets me upload all my photos, so I've got like online storage. Same thing with, what's the other one that people like to use? Flickr.
Right.
Unless you're a professional photographer who needs to upload things, at 20 megapixels or something like that, the service is free. Like you've got essentially free storage. There is computing power out there that you can use. There's a Google's developer website. You can store your code and your development environment and so forth. And unless you're doing this in a big way, as a business and it's a big thing, that's free. So we've got we've got places where I realize it's in some cases ad supported and so forth. But the fact of the matter is, all these resources, if you've got the hardware to access these resources, says the guy whose internet access was out this morning. You can, it's ubiquitous and essentially free. Media has become practically free. And yes, I know we can argue about, piracy and so forth, but the fact of the matter is there are so many streaming services, and piracy aside, there's tons of free streaming services out there. All you need is an internet connection, which the United Nations has just voted on calling a basic human right. So
Yep.
internet access is now a basic human right. So the next thing that we're heading toward now is free power. Okay, the thing in the show, what they talked about is the idea that the thing about solar, in 1 hour, the Earth gets bathed in enough solar energy to power the entire planet for an entire year. In 1 hour.
Yeah.
Okay?
Like that's a number that I hear often. It's just,
How
what
do
are
we
the
do it?
odds
Exactly.
of
How
collecting?
do we collect that power? But the
Yeah.
fact is, the technology for doing this is increasingly becoming cheaper. And if you've got projects out there like this that say, hey, here's a way for you to do it inexpensively, okay, it'll spread to places where, to places where historically they haven't been able to access this technology, this power. And open source is liberating that way. Open source design, open source hardware, open source software, open access to education, to technology. All this sort of stuff is basically making it possible for, essentially a whole new generation of people who are going to build an essentially free world. The thing about solar is you buy the equipment once. It's not like as they put it on the show, as they described it. I think Al Gore explained it this way. It's not like a coal-fired plant where you have to load up the coal into a truck and ship it over to using fossil fuels, ship it over to a coal processing plant, and deal with all the things associated with that. No, you buy the panels and you're done. There's essentially no requirement, for literally decades to do anything else about it. So as time goes on, the other thing that's becoming free, after media, after computing power, after storage, and so forth, is we're going to get to a point where power is essentially free. There will be a time, not that far into the future, where we are talking about ridiculously cheap, clean energy.
But
So at that point,
we don't have to wait for cold fusion or something.
no, we don't actually. We actually don't. There are places in the world where most of the energy, and I'm not talking about cars at this point, but Germany is 100% clean renewable energy for electric power, like 100%. One of your states, I'm trying to remember which one, announced about 3 weeks ago that they were now generating 100% of their electric power. Look at you can probably look it up, but from clean renewable energy. So it's coming, and it's coming a lot faster than people think it's coming. It has to. I mean, we can't keep burning fossil fuels and polluting the atmosphere forever. I mean, it has to happen at some point. So here's where, believe it or not, all this stuff ties in. What happens at the point where power is free, or essentially, okay? If you're using more than your fair share, you'll probably still pay for it, large businesses and so forth, but we're talking like for the average person. So for the average person, internet access is free, computing power is free, media is free, entertainment is free, power is free, and then of course we've got a world with increasing automation where the robots are doing the work.
You're right.
Yeah,
The rise of the robots. The robots take over the internet. They have free energy forever. Robots take over the world.
I, for one, welcome our robot
I knew
overlords.
it.
But it's an interesting question, isn't it? One of the side effects of a largely open world that shares information in a big way, and and that's at the heart of open source software, which, as I've remarked more than once, powers the internet, powers the modern economy, powers the world. That cell phone that you hold in your hand, the set-top box that you watch Netflix on, the Amazon.com, Google, you name it. All that stuff is powered by open source software, by free software. It is the future. It is the world. It is the future. So it's not just about Linux and Linux on the desktop. It's about open source and open technology.
That
and
does
it's happening.
sound
We're gonna have to figure out how we live in a world that's free.
That does sound like Star Talk, because that is some crazy pie in the sky thinking. And I'm gonna call it crazy. It's obviously not that crazy because these are very real possibilities. But I've heard so many arguments about the figures alone, how they're saying it's clean renewable energy, and how some of that should come from nuclear. They're shutting down nuclear plants. How some of it should, how some of it is misleading. How it's only for like an hour during peak times of solar energy are they actually producing enough energy to power, let alone the 23 other hours that are not being powered by clean energy. Like I've heard a lot of these things, but how does that relate to Linux other than it's open source?
Well, but that's just it. That's just it. Open source means that everyone has access
Right.
to the information.
Okay.
Okay. Because it's not proprietary. Okay. You don't have to jump through hoops. You don't have to go through lawyers. You don't have to spend a lot of money to access this stuff. All right. And the fact of the matter is, you're talking about peak hours and so forth. The fact of the matter is, most places, again, it's 2016. Okay. Remember, it's 2016. Most places produce surplus electricity. All right.
Right.
They produce more than they have to. Up here, one of the big things that's a craw in everybody's bonnet, and it should be, is think about this for a second. We've got a lot of people that are cutting the cord, and yes, we're going to talk about this later in the show. There are a lot of people that are cutting the cord, and I'm talking about cutting the cord cable here, okay, like cable television program, because they're streaming all their entertainment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they've got internet access, and they're streaming all their entertainment, and the sorry, and what the cable companies have done up to this point to deal with this, okay, so all of a sudden there's a glut of programming and so forth, and less and less consumers, in the traditional channels than they're used to. So what are they doing? They're charging the people who are still on more. A few years ago around here, there were some power problems, and this is like, I'm talking 15, 20 years ago. We had some days where we had brownouts, where there were all, it was like things were bad, things were looking rough. So they started raising the rates, saying, look, we have to raise the rates because there's such huge demand. I mean, that's the old economic model, isn't it? Demand, price goes up, right?
Supply and demand, yeah.
Exactly. Except it's 2016. All right, that's what our prime minister likes to say. It's 2016. It's 2016, and now we've got a surplus of power. We've got a surplus of fuel. We've got a surplus of power. We've got a surplus of energy. So what do? They say we have a surplus. People aren't using as much of this stuff as they used to because our devices are more efficient. Despite the fact that we've got more things plugged in than ever before, they're more efficient than ever before. Okay.
Right.
So we've got a surplus of these things, which means people aren't using as much. So what do we have to do now that the demand is lower? Okay, we have to raise prices. Excuse me? You told me that when the demand was high, that's when the prices were high. Now you're telling me that because the demand is low, you have to raise the prices. And they have to raise the prices because they want to make as much money or more money than they made the year before. Okay?
Right.
So that's a stupid argument. It's a stupid argument. It's not a there is a surplus. There's a surplus of so much of this stuff, and eventually they're going to have to cave into the idea that if we need to make money, if we need to make money, we have to come up with other ways to do it, because you can't keep charging less and less people more and more all the time when other people have figured out a way to get the stuff for free.
Unfortunately, a lot of what you have kind of outlined there is very at odds with our current system, which is
I'm aware of that.
Capitalism. Yeah, capitalism. That to make profits is the end goal of everything that you do. And when you privatize your power company, when you privatize your prison system, your education system, when you privatize your hospitals, everything, it's to make a buck. And when you don't make a buck, then you are in big trouble. Even if things are getting better by not making as much money, that's still a problem for you.
The fact is, and as difficult as this might be for some people to get used to, and by the way, it's difficult for me to get used to, despite the fact that I tout this and I talk about this, but we are witnessing the end of capitalism.
Dun,
okay?
dun, dun.
No, it is dying. It is dying. We are entering an era when those old capitalist, business models cannot work. It's not a question of we should this is not a this is not a philosophical or a social good argument. This is a fact. Eventually something's going to give here, and capitalism has to give. Capitalism can no longer work in the current economy. I mean, it is reaching the end of its usefulness. People have to figure out other ways to make an economy work that isn't classic capitalism. Classic capitalism belongs to the 20th, 19th, and 18th centuries. It doesn't belong to the 21st century.
Certainly not the 22nd century.
Certainly not the 22nd. We are, in Star Trek, right? But seriously, new models have to come into play because it can no longer work.
It's just
we're
hard.
holding on. We're holding on. We're trying to push it as far as we can go, but eventually the camel's back breaks.
Right. It's just so hard because everything that we have right now can in some way be pointed to capitalism by saying, oh, there's Intel and there's AMD. There's multiple companies trying to fill the same role, and by filling the same role, it's to make better products at a cheaper price, for more people, and that's how you become kind of leader of your industry. But being a leader in the industry in a world where there's no capitalism, you kind of have to do it for almost altruistic purposes rather than we're doing it better than anyone else.
Yeah, but at some point we learned that it was a bad idea to poop in the water that we drink.
That's true.
Yeah, we thought, that's really a bad idea. We probably should stop pooping in the water that we're drinking, or at the very least, we should process that water so that it's clean again before we start to drink it. Eventually, we figured out that it was a bad idea, despite the fact that for countless centuries, for thousands of years, humans have been pooping in the river from which they were drinking. Okay,
yeah.
we figured out that this was a bad idea. Just because we've always done it a particular way doesn't mean it was a great idea. Proprietary methods, proprietary software, proprietary hardware design, all these things were the way that it was done. Okay, businesses had to make lots of money in order to push the technology forward. Then came open source and open design and open standards, and then all of a sudden we have the birth of the internet. We have high-speed, content delivery. We have large companies that are built entirely on the open source model and open standards and open design and so forth. It has the thing that supposedly couldn't work to build a better world has given us the modern world, has given us all the things that none of us is willing to give up.
I have been noticing that a lot more companies, actually I wouldn't even call NASA a company, but NASA, Tesla, I believe NVIDIA has done a few things. Like a lot of these big name companies that you've heard of. Oh, and that's not even counting all of the graphics design software out there. More and more companies are either opening up their patents for other companies to use and innovate upon. I think Google actually released like their DeepMind or open, whatever their
learning. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, they released that for open source. More and more companies, it's not across the board. It's not 100% of companies are releasing all of their patents for free, but more and more companies are seeing the value of, innovation leads technology, and if you want to be a part of the innovation, it's better that they work with your patents, your technology for free than them to work around you and try and maybe surpass you.
Well, and think about this. If you're designing a product and you're trying to get it to market, okay, and you know that you're going to be embroiled in patent litigation for the next 10 years, what if you could strike a deal that says, look, you don't sue us, I won't sue you, and we'll share each other's stuff, because obviously you need what I've got and I need what you've got, so let's just skip the lawyers, let's skip the litigation, and let's move forward. Hey,
right.
What a frighteningly, amazingly open idea that is. Two things, okay, to go along with that. There's I've got a link to an article that actually segues into this, how open source became the default business model for tech. I know that's not exactly the title of the article, but and directly below that, I've also got a link from this year's OSCON, which had a panel discussion on that topic, how open source software became, the de facto thing. So there are tons of articles on this topic, but there's an article there that you can chase down which covers that very thing, discussion on that. Open source development, open source business models are kind of, they're not out there anymore. It's not out there. There is a lot of, if you'll pardon the expression, commercial open source software. I mean, if you're buying like a complex package, and and you're able to deploy it and take care of it, more power to you. But oftentimes, you're going to want somebody to hold your hand. You're going to want somebody to support it. You're going to want somebody to take care of it. That's how Red Hat became a multi-billion-dollar company, despite the fact that they deal in free software. And yes, they are now a multi-billion-dollar company. Giving stuff away. How is that possible? How do you become a multi-billion-dollar company? Because open source makes sense. There are to move ahead with the kind of technology and the kind of engineering that the future needs is beyond the financial abilities of any single company. That's part of it. It's not just altruism. It's that, look, there are only so many things that we can build. There are only so many things I can fund all by myself. But if I want to take advantage of a world of engineering, a world full of brilliant minds and so forth, I'm going to have to bring them into the fold. I'm going to have to give them something so that they're willing to give me something. So open source isn't about just giving stuff away. It's about sharing. And sharing means, look, I've got a shovel, you've got a saw. I don't need the shovel today, but I really need a saw today, and you need a shovel. How about you use my shovel, I'll use your saw. We both benefit at that point. It's not just altruistic, like, oh, hey, dude, I don't need the shovel, I don't need the saw, it's all yours, you take it away. It's not like that. The open source software, the GPL, Creative Commons, so much of it is share and share alike. It's not just take my stuff here, it's free. It's take my stuff, and if you do something with it, bring it back into the community, and let's all move forward together.
How does that not stymie alternative methods? Like how's that? After, let's say, a decade of do this, how does that not kind of funnel everything into one method?
Well, it doesn't, because there's 7.4 billion people on the planet.
Oh, have we upgraded
hundreds of millions of different companies and universities all over the globe, and everybody working on their own things. It's the collaboration of billions of minds working together. That's why it's not the same crap being created over and over again. We're pretty enterprising creatures, human beings, and given the opportunity, we can go far.
That's true.
That's not altruism. It makes sense. I mean, the internet you may think of the internet. You may think of the internet as the internet has reinvigorated business, has made it possible for people to communicate with other people around the world, has given us communications possibilities we never had before, has made it possible for you to hunt freaking Pokemon on the other side of your city, okay? But all of it was built on open source.
That's right.
All right. So you can say, well, geez, it doesn't make any sense. Well, I get it. It's hard to wrap your head around that. But if I wanted, the example I used to use once upon a time was, let's pretend that I'm a company and I want to build a word processor. Okay. And I sit my people down and we figure, hey, it's going to take 2 years and $10 million to build a decent word processor. So let's sit down and spend, or what if I could put $1,000 into a community of 1,000 programmers who all wanted to build a word processor? I realize we've got word processors already. I'm just using this as an example. Okay? So in 6 months, these 1,000 programmers from around the world who are really happy at the idea that somebody has thrown a little bit of seed money into it, and a couple of other people have thrown some seed money. So you've got maybe, a few companies that actually had $1,000 to throw around, who have popped it in there and so forth, who gave some people, the opportunity to work on this project on which they had some interest. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, for an expense of $1,000, you have your $10 million word processor. Okay? Right. That's not just altruism at work. That's good business sense. I didn't have to spend $10 million in order to get the business tool that I wanted, that I needed to be able to move forward with my company.
Right, and again, we're seeing that in a lot of different fields. I mean, again, my favorite is in graphics design, where these small startup animation companies, or these small startup art firms and graphic design firms, they're going out and they're using these, essentially what took a company or a couple companies $2 million to create. They can then either buy a license or even use it for free, what took millions of dollars, they're now using for hundreds of dollars themselves. I mean, it helps a lot of people. This whole idea.
And we're we as a society, as a collective group, consume all this stuff. I like the fact that I can go online and watch a whole bunch of cool things. My kids love the fact that they can, my 9-year-old loves the fact that he can watch all these YouTubers play Minecraft, and it's all built on that. It's all built on that. Craig is keeping us on track. I know, right, Craig?
Well, no, I understand. No, it's a good topic of conversation. But as I said, we do have some. We're at the top of the hour, really. And
we are. Holy cow!
And I think I want us to come back with some of the other interesting stories here. Remember, a few weeks ago, it was announced that Sony lost millions in a class action lawsuit where PlayStation 3 thought that they could run Linux, and basically Sony had barred them from doing that very thing. Well, when we come back, we're going to say, okay, it's 2016, and guess what you can now do on the PlayStation 4?
I'm seeing a theme for the show. I'm seeing a theme.
Yeah, you can run Linux on it. We're going to talk about that as well. And also, we have our distribution focus. We're going to be talking about different distributions of Linux. Marcel always comes up with very interesting ones. We're going to talk about Chalet OS as one of the several. And then we'll talk about entertainment in Linux if we have time. And
yes, we have to have time because this is so cool.
Okay.
It is. It's so cool.
And then if we do have time, we'll also talk about screening, broadcasting, and live streaming. What you can do. All right, that's all coming up in the next hour of the Computer America Show. Marcel Gagné continues with us. It's our all Linux show today here on Computer America.
347-884-8881.
I'll get you through. We're going to be right back, I promise. Just a few moments, and we return with hour 2 of the Computer America Show.
Broadcasting live, it's the only national radio talk show on computers to air every weeknight. Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. The first hour's behind us, but there's still more of tech news, tech talk, and your phone calls. We're being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. You got computer problems? Bring them on. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call us or send us an email to live@computeramerica.com.
Hello and welcome into hour 2 of the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. This is the Computer America Show, and I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And we continue on. Marcel Gagné is our Linux expert, our Linux correspondent. If you missed any portion of the show, you can certainly go back to any page at computeramerica.com, click on the archives selection on the menu bar that appears on every page, and you can see all the different places you can listen to the show. Again, the Blog Talk Radio Network, Apple's iTunes, Stitcher. Also, you can listen to the live show there as well, including the IRN Radio Network and the TuneIn Radio Network. All the different places you can listen to ComputerAmerica.com. And but we're coming back in the second hour. Now remember that you can go to ComputerAmerica.com or the Blog Talk Radio Network page for us, and you'll see the link that says Cheat Notes. Click on it. You'll download what Ben is showing you on the live video stream, so you can see all the different links and follow along all the different stories that we're talking about. So we're coming back to this story that Sony with the PlayStation 3 was blocking Linux, evidently, and now, according to this story, they're not doing it anymore. And Marcel, why don't you pick it up here and kind of tell us what's going on?
Yeah. Well, a few years ago, when I got my PS3, I got it actually as a birthday present at the time. It was a lovely birthday gift. I was thrilled to get that. You were able to install another OS. There was an option on the PS3 to install another OS. And what people were doing was loading up a version of Linux. At the time, it was Yellow Dog Linux, which was specifically designed to work on that piece of hardware. I think it was Yellow Dog, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. Anyway, So Sony at some point said no, for security reasons, for whatever. I think it was because they're control freaks, but but for whatever their stated reasons, they said no, we're going to lock that out now. We don't want people to be able to do that sort of thing. And of course, as soon as you made it available to do to load up Linux on there were all sorts of things that you could do. Like, you could copy your games that you had paid discs for. One of the things, I don't know about you, but one of the things that annoys the hell out of me is I've got discs that I paid for, and I actually have to pop out discs and pop them back in, and you have to be careful with them. You could scratch them, things could happen to them, and so forth, and then you can't go and buy them again later. For that reason, if I can't download it, onto my PS3 now, I don't even want it anymore. I don't want to go into a store and buy a disc because I can't actually make up a backup copy of it. But I digress. Anyway, so there was a lawsuit brought against Sony, a class action lawsuit that says, hey, we bought this thing with the understanding that we were able to install an alternative operating system on it. And Sony, and in fact, in the early days, by the way, there were a couple of supercomputers that were built on PS3s. So they clustered, Sony PlayStations together to build supercomputers. Like, I mean, it's kind of cool, actually. But Sony just, shut that door and spent years fighting this in court. Well, they lost. I mean, the short version is they lost, and they came to an agreement to pay out several million. I don't remember exactly what the number is, but millions and millions and millions of dollars to users. Now, I suppose I could have, and that works out to, I don't know, it worked out something like $85 per person or something like that. I could have collected my 85, but you have to sign an affidavit that, yes, I did indeed buy my PlayStation 3, specifically because I could do that. Anyway, with the PS4, I guess Sony's decided, we're not doing this again.
Can you blame them? They got sued last time.
Yeah, we got sued last time. We spent years in court. We spent millions of dollars, and then we have to pay out millions of dollars. So we've paid millions to our lawyers and in court costs and so forth, and now we have to pay out millions more to the users that we promised something and didn't deliver it on. So I think Sony might actually be starting to get the idea that maybe this is just a bad idea. So yes, so now you can actually, there's a spin, or a version of, I like using that word, spin. There's a version of Fedora that's been packaged and prepared so that you can actually install it on your PS4, which means you can run Steam games and all sorts of other neat things on your PS4. I may actually, for this, go out and buy a PS4. Listen, Sony, if you're out there, if I'm buying a PS4, it's because I can run Linux on it. I'm making that clear today.
And I'm very
my signed affidavit. That's the reason that I will buy one, because I can run Linux on it.
I'm a gamer and I like Linux, and I'm very litigious.
I am a gamer. I do game, and damn it, I want to be able to play whatever the hell I want on whatever I want. So I may get a PS4 just for that very reason. All right?
Yes.
I made that clear. Anyway, so there you go. So that's kind of cool. I thought that was a cool story. Next one, let's just jump ahead to one other one. Hey, ever wanted to be a Linux system administrator and do it for a living?
Why am I reading Latin here?
It's not Latin. It says, hey, want to get a job as a Linux system administrator? Here are some useful questions you should know the answers to.
I'm looking at here's some useful, and then I see a whole bunch of Latin. I must have an earlier version of this. Yes, okay.
Reload your document. Is there something weird here?
Exactly.
Yeah, no. Again, if you're following the video portion of the show here, there is no Latin. There is only English. Yeah. That's
Craig,
English.
Craig, is your internet down, Craig? I hear it's going around.
His brain is skipping. Start him. Force quit.
Anyway, 50. I threw this out there just because I thought it was fun. The top 50 Linux system administrator questions, and I have to tell you, as a Linux system admin guy, as a guy who's actually written several books on Linux, hundreds of articles for different magazines and so on, I have trouble with some of these questions.
Did you?
I do, and I'm not talking about I have trouble answering them. I have trouble with the questions themselves. Okay.
All right.
Explain the boot process of Unix system in details. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Well, that depends on the hardware that you're on, for one thing. Like what specific hardware would you like that to be on? What version of the operating system would you like it to be on? I mean, I can ask a whole pile of questions that is there a preloaded BIOS on this particular system? As in the case of our old friend the Raspberry Pi. Another one on here, it's like this. What's there's a bunch of things. How do you know about virtualization? I read it on the freaking internet. Is it good to use? I don't know. It depends.
I've heard about these kinds of questions before. Of course, there are like questions that you can ask someone who claims to be an expert in your field.
Yes.
And like they're not trick questions, but if you ask for any kind of clarification or any kind of further information that is relevant, then it shows a certain level of mastery. Instead, you could just kind of take the question and try to BS your way through it. But if you show any kind of interest about further,
so what you're saying is that they're written that way to trip up the person who wouldn't otherwise really.
So you can't just kind of take the context of the question and then give them a BS answer.
Sneaky.
Right.
See, I was about to make fun of what's the common size for a swap partition under a Linux system. I was going to make fun of that question as well. But since you put it that way, yeah, okay, that might be more clever than I gave it credit for. Okay. Well done, lad. Well done.
Because some of these questions I'm looking at, they're so open, they're so open-ended that you're going to need some kind of other information to answer them properly.
Well, aren't you clever?
Thank you. I read the internet.
I read the internet. I read it from a book.
No, but of course I've been on the show for a couple of years now, and we've had Linux Thursday, for quite a number of Thursdays since I've been here. I don't know what half of these questions are asking. More than half, really. Wow, I need to use Linux.
You do, dude. I can't imagine. Honestly. I don't know how anybody gets any work done with anything else. I suppose Windows is good to run games on, because a lot of games are available.
Well, yeah, that's what I do.
To actually do work with it, like, holy crap! I don't know how people actually do anything.
Well, luckily, most work. I think most work for a lot of people who go to an office or what have you. I think a lot of people now use web applications.
That's a topic we've covered a few times. What does the desktop mean anyway nowadays?
Right.
A lot of us basically live online now and use all our tools online. And I still use LibreOffice, the classic Office suites, especially when I'm working on a book, when I'm working on something complex. But for almost any other document that I do nowadays, it's all Google Docs. It's like it just works, and I don't have to actually fire up a piece of software. I've got my browser running anyway, so
right.
And so much of that has been expanded because by the mere fact that our browsers are now all HTML5 compliant. It's because of HTML5 that you can do things like that, and we don't even realize that's 5 is what's allowing us to actually do this.
Yeah, HTML5 was great, and another reason why, if you've got a website out there that's running Flash, get rid of it.
The only question from this list that you have is what backup techniques do you prefer? I can answer that one because we talk about that almost every day on the show. Off-site physical backup and cloud backup. Both, too.
Both,
at the same time.
Absolutely. Agreed.
So, yeah, no. Good list. Kind of poke through it, see what you would answer.
But anyway, it's a good list. I mean, and it is a good list. I mean, there are a lot of good questions on there that you probably should be able to, at the very least, as you put it, Ben, explain with some amount of intelligence, even if you don't agree with it.
Right.
Okay. So
okay.
I'm not going to spend a long time on the distribution focus because I do actually want to cover some of the other things which I actually thought would take me a while to get to. But Chalet OS, that's my Linux distribution of the month.
Yes.
Okay. Chalet OS is and I hate the fact that they do this, and I'll be upfront about this. Okay. I hate the fact that it comes on there. The system he tried to use was too different from what he's used to. There were too many new things. It was too difficult to learn and so forth. Crap. It's not that difficult to learn. Almost anybody. I mean, if you move from Windows 7 to Windows 10, you had a learning curve. Okay. Everything has got a button in the corner that you click. A taskbar at the bottom with a little clock and little icons that show what you're running. Quick launch icon, stuff like. Everything pretty much has that model. Sometimes the launcher is at the top You know, as in, you know, on a Mac or something like that, or at the bottom, there are icons that are sitting on a desktop background. I pretty much always remove the icons on my desktop, but because I like a clean background with a pretty picture. But anyway, especially when I'm not using it, you know, I can just go walk by and look at it.
Well,
But
I run
the
my screensaver.
sorry, go ahead.
I run my screensaver for that.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, screensavers. There's a blast from the past.
Right?
Screensaver. Why do we use
I
a
don't even use
screensaver?
one anymore. I really don't.
Well,
Well, that's because
it's not
you
a
don't actually. You haven't needed one for years.
Yeah, you haven't needed it for a long time, but it's there. It's built into the OS of Apple, and you can just, you know, you can move your mouse to any corner that you designate, and then it activates the screensaver. So you can have the pretty pictures or whatever you want running.
Yeah. So anyway, so they start out by saying, you know, it's to make it as simple as possible. What I have to admit though is it's built on a modern, you know, relatively modern OS. They are offering support on it until April. It's like for 5 years. So this thing just came out April 2016, but the support on it is to 2021. So they're going to continue releasing patches and updates for the packages until 2021. It's a lovely desktop, actually. They've done a really nice job of making it look clean, making it look nice. I downloaded it, I installed it, I wandered around, and I mean they've got some screenshots there, you know, on the page. But it is a lovely looking desktop. It actually is. And it's one that I'd recommend people check out if they're looking for something new and friendly. It's built on Ubuntu 16.04, so you know. It's got familiar, up-to-date packages, and of course, you know, because they're going to extend it. I believe that Ubuntu is only extended to 3 years for the support on the long-term support, but they're going to push it to 5 years for this particular one. But they've done lovely work. It's built on. It's got some of their own. They've put in their own software center for being able to find and install different software. Again, designed to be as friendly and easy as possible. They have some default applications, which, to be honest, I wasn't actually familiar with. They were actually things that that I don't use on a day-to-day basis. But it's really kind of nice, actually. It's a nice package. It's a nice presentation. It looks good. It seems to work well. It's one I'd recommend people take a look at. And again, I've recommended some freaky ones on the show before, you know, ones that have a weird twist to them, or that are, you know, security, you know, based on security, or based on manga, you know, in one case, stuff
Right.
like that. This is just a really nice, clean, modern desktop. You know, relatively friendly, easy to use. I was fairly impressed with it.
Yeah, it looks nice, and again,
It does. And again, I mean, it's all the software that people are used to, all the things that they might want on a day-to-day basis is available for it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it's worth checking out. I really do.
Even if the date's messed up in the bottom right-hand corner, day,
Is
month,
it
year.
messed up in the bottom right-hand corner?
Yeah, day, month, year. What is that? That speaking of Latin, day, month, year.
No, that's a Canadian thing.
okay.
Well, the whole country's messed up. I don't know what to tell you.
It's supposed to be
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I have no idea.
And what
That's definitely a European thing.
and
What
what
do we
is
say? I always say month, day, year, which always
Month, day,
throws
year.
me when I take a look. You guys do things
month, day, year?
often when you see the number.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, sometimes they switch it around. You know, some places use the month first, and some places use the day first.
Right.
It's like, you know, can't we all just agree on one?
Yeah, the month first. That's a month, day, year.
Well, the day first makes the most sense. You know, Europeans and their whole metric system and how everything has to make sense. Day, month, year makes the most sense because you go from shortest interval of time, medium interval of time, longest interval
No,
of
I
time.
disagree because you never say nobody says it's the 16th. Well, actually, if you're French, you do. You know, let's say it's juillet 1995. You know, if you say that if you're French, but in the English-speaking world, people generally say it's January 15th. You know, 2017 or whatever. You know, I mean, people say the month first. So why, when you do it numerically, would you switch them around?
Because again, it's the interval of time. It's everything in its order and everything in its place.
You're just going to
Lovely.
argue with me about everything today, aren't you?
I am. I don't know. No, I'm not. No, I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna say one other thing before I move on. Okay, and this is gonna
Sure.
be quick. Okay, but I forgot to put it in the news. Okay, Microsoft has released an alpha Skype client for Linux. They're finally updating the damn thing. And second, you can now make calls like relatively cleanly. It works relatively cleanly on the Chrome browser. So if you've got a Chromebook or a browser, it doesn't really seem to matter what the operating system is. You can actually use Skype reasonably well if you use the web client. So not only are they working on on an updated client for Linux, finally, after all this time. Okay, and I like the way they're saying it. Maybe Microsoft really does love Linux these days. I mean, they say that, our commitment to an important group of people, the Linux community. Oh man, I just want to cry when I read that.
Yeah.
So, so, that's. I just wanted to toss that in there. We're going to move on, but I just wanted to toss that in there. Okay.
All right. Good. All right. Well, and now it's time for you to entertain me.
All right, because we haven't done any entertainment up until this point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right. Listen, you remember what I said about entertainment becoming free?
Yes.
Okay. Two things I've been doing a lot of the last few days. The last couple of weeks, in my spare moments, I've been experimenting with desktop recording software. I've been experimenting with streaming media, streaming technologies, all sorts of things like this. I've been playing with all sorts of stuff, and we'll move on to the streaming stuff in a moment here. But the other thing that happened, my dad contacted me about 2 weeks ago, and he said, that box that you've got in the living room to watch TV, do I want one of those? And of course, he's talking about the Roku. Okay, so it's a Roku 3, and of course, I'm sitting there thinking, well, sure. I mean, I love my Roku. I've got it in the living room and so forth. So I went looking for one. So he said, can you go get one for me? I'll pay you back, because he doesn't like to go into, Best Buy and places. It just confuses him. It's like, you go buy it, I'll pay you back. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So I go to check out Best Buy. I'm getting there. Believe it or not, I'm getting there.
How can you not like to go to Best Buy? That's fun. It's like.
Well, you do, but my dad just, it's like, I'm just overwhelmed in here. I don't, despite the fact that my dad is actually quite tech savvy.
Yeah.
It's like they've got a million things they're trying to sell me. I just want one thing,
Oh.
Can you get me the one thing? My dad's not a big shopper, well, he likes to shop, but he doesn't like to. He likes to buy things, but he doesn't like to shop. Does that make any sense?
Well, okay.
Okay. Anyway,
yeah.
Yeah, especially if he knows that he wants a particular thing. He doesn't want to be confused by a million other. He wants his particular thing. I mean, I'm sure a lot of guys out there are like that.
Okay.
Anyway, so I go, okay, fine. And it turns out that they don't have any Roku 3s. Okay. They're out of stock, and it's like, when are they going to be back in? I don't know when they're going to. Besides, the Roku 4 is coming out at some point here, for the 4K sets. Well, we don't have a 4K set, and it's like almost $200 for the Roku 4. I forget exactly what it is, but it's quite a bit more than the Roku 3. It's like we get a Roku 2. Yeah, you don't want to do that because if you're going to stream 1080p, you want the Roku 3 at least to be able to get the throughput. The 2's not as fast. Blah blah blah. So all of a sudden, I remember the story that I heard. There are a bunch of not cable companies, but television stations and so forth that are trying to clamp down on Android TV boxes. You know what these things are?
What? Linux.
Okay, you know what they are, right? Okay, Android TV boxes are basically Android tablets built into a box, except that they don't have a screen. They're sort of like a Roku, but they're built on Android. Okay, and the reason that this is freaking out companies. Now, what's interesting is they're not going after places like Best Buy who sell them. They're going after the mom and pop shops. And the reason they're going after the mom and pop shops is Android boxes come with something which used to be called XMBC, which was a Linux multimedia center, XMBC. Now, XMBC of late has been rebranded to Kodi, K-O-D-I. Okay, and I've got a link there to Kodi.tv, so if you want to look it up, Kodi.tv. Kodi.tv is the evolution of XMBC. XMBC originally was like a multimedia center, so you're in the house, you want to be able to stream your video content, your pictures, your family pictures that you've got on your hard drive, stuff like that. People built XMBC boxes out of old computers. Well, now it's 2016. It's a theme today. It's 2016, and if you've got an Android tablet, as I do here, I've got my Nexus tablet, you can actually download and install Kodi onto your tablet. And Kodi is really interesting because it not only gives you access to your media in the way that XMBC did in the past, and for anybody who's actually here, I'll try to do it so that it's not reflecting. You're not going to see it. Anyway. it is also set up in such a way that you've got all sorts of add-ons that you can add on to it. So I start looking at this and I start thinking, this might actually be a good thing for my dad, because you can still do Netflix on it, and I mean, the streaming services that we use, and look at this, you can actually watch some live TV channels on this. So I'm digging into this further and further, and it's like I've known about these things, but I didn't know to what extent this stuff had gone. And there are countless add-ons developed by the open source community. And you got to remember, one of the problems that we experience, I'm sure it happens to you guys in the States, it happens to us here. Somebody will post, here's the latest video from, this week tonight with John Oliver or something like that, and you go to click on it and it says, this is not available in your country.
Yep.
And you go, you bastages, notice I didn't say the other word. I said bastages. It's like from Johnny Dangerously, which is an excellent movie which you must all watch if you've never seen it, okay? It's awesome. Johnny Dangerously. Put a link to it, Ben. Johnny Dangerously. It's one of the funniest, best movies I've ever seen. I love that film. Anyway, because there's a guy, partly because there's a guy there. The movie's got a PG rating, and this guy there swears all the time, but he doesn't use the right words. His English is bad. So he says things like, you cork-sucking ice hole. So he's not actually saying the words ever. So it gets past all the censors because, what's a cork sucker? Like, somebody pulls the corks out of wine bottles and sucks on them.
Right.
Yeah, Johnny Dangerously. It's brilliant. I love that movie. And it's got one of the best lines in movies of all time. Remember, kid, crime doesn't pay. And then a couple seconds later, well, it paid a little. Anyway, Johnny Dangerously. But I digress, as I often do, apparently. So I start looking at this, and it's like, because of the open source, open development model, it's also got a plug-in architecture, as so many of these pieces of software seem to have now. So there are people that are taking advantage of the fact that content is not blocked in the same way in different parts of the world. In the internet world, this geo-blocking is really, when you come right down to it, insane. Okay? Because we all know we can get around it easily. I mean, we all do. And the only thing that companies do by saying it's illegal for you to do that is they're making their customers into criminals. It's just nuts. I mean, find somebody on your street who doesn't go around geo-blocking on a regular basis. Like, seriously, try to. See if you can find one.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to do. Everybody is breaking this, and I mean everybody is breaking this.
Where I live, there's a couple of elderly neighbors, but does this survey count if you do it yourself, or are you automatically out of the running?
If you do it yourself, you're automatically out of the running.
Well, never mind then. Can't win.
Anyway, I digress. So what they've got are all these add-ons that you can put in there, and the add-ons give you access to countless channels around the world, to countless, and I'm sorry, but this is true as well, to movies that you can download and stream. Like, it's just freaky what you can access on this stuff. Now, I get much better quality if I'm streaming from Netflix, so I'm not giving up Netflix anytime soon. But it's really kind of fascinating. Yesterday, I was making supper. In case you're wondering, I was making 4-cheese risotto. Okay, quattro formaggio risotto for supper, and you have to stir the risotto all the time. You can't walk away from your risotto, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you can't walk away from it. You got to stir it. You got to keep working at it. So you got to stay there. You got to stay near the stove. So I'm sitting there playing with the tablet because I know I'm going to be talking about this on the show. And I pulled in this Bengali station.
That's what you
want. I'm watching Bengali television in a language that I don't understand, but they're sitcoms, which are, they're Bengali sitcoms, but like you go, this kind of stuff is kind of universal in a strange, they're wearing different clothing, they've got jewelry that you're not used to seeing around here and so forth, but interspersed in the language, and I don't know what the language is, and the text looks kind of Arabic. I mean, I don't know what Bengali is. I confess to being a complete Luddite, I suppose, or know nothing when it comes to this, but I'm having, and there seems to be Indian influences as well as Thai influences and so forth. it's kind of all over the place as near as I can tell. And the interspersed in the shows, somebody say mom, dad, and then they'll speak, their own language or something like that, and somebody say, oh, please, and then they go back to speaking their language. So there are these English words interspersed all over the place, and I'm thinking, this is just like surreal, man.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so it was fascinating. So I'm making my risotto, and I'm watching Bengali television. I'm having a blast. And I'm thinking that this is yet another one of those things that, open source and open access gives you, whether you like it or not. So what they'll do is they'll keep charging the existing customers more money to make up for the fact that, other people are just streaming this stuff. But some of these streaming services are completely legal in the countries in which they're doing it. It's just that they're making those completely legal things available to the entire world. So it's kind of hard to tell. I mean, I guess you'd have to have a pretty deep understanding of what's allowable and what's not allowable in your country, especially when you're talking about thousands of stations around the world. There's stuff in Russian there. There's Romanian. There's literally from all over the world. It's just incredibly fascinating. So Kodi, what used to be XMBC, is not only available for your Android tablet. You can also go to, like I said, something like Best Buy. I bought this little Android box, by the way, for my dad.
You bought this for your dad, who doesn't like to go, and you're going to deluge him with thousands of stations.
What I did was I set up favorites for him. You can bookmark stuff, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I bookmarked the things he watches on a regular basis. I gave him a couple of other things I thought were fun, including a couple of TV stations in France, because he's Canadian.
And that Bengali station.
I didn't give him the Bengali station. It was fun. I had a blast watching that while I was making my risotto.
Yeah.
But by the way, the risotto was great. I just want to I actually did a good job on the risotto.
I also saw there on the website that they have instructions on how to get I think it said a Raspberry Pi 3, but I'm sure it can do others. They sell a little case for it too.
Yeah, you can actually. You can download a distribution for the Pi 2, which I think I mentioned on the last show. I didn't show it to you last show before. I can't remember. But OpenELEC, OPENELEC.
Okay.
Which is actually a Raspberry Pi distribution. It's built for the Pi, which runs XMBC.
All right, so we're at the bottom of the hour here. We're gonna take another break, and then we'll continue on with this. And we're gonna also talk about screencasting, broadcasting, and live streaming. Marcel Gagné is our Linux correspondent. We're gonna take another break. News Tips full review from Marty Winston coming up as well, and then we'll be right back. You're listening to the Computer America Show. Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? Not so great, huh? It's a fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they are available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com. Looking for a best friend? Brother Wolf Animal Rescue has your best friend waiting just for you. The mission of Brother Wolf Animal Rescue is to help build a sustainable, no-kill community where no dogs or cats are ever killed for population control, where true euthanasia is reserved only for animals who are irremediably suffering, or for animals who are truly a threat to society and with no hope of rehabilitation. Brother Wolf's staff and volunteers go door to door, neighborhood by neighborhood, to educate citizens about local resources available for at-risk pets and to help their families connect with those resources. Brother Wolf's community-based approach to no-kill helps keep family pets healthy, happy, and in their homes and out of the local shelter system in the first place. For more information or to make a tax-deductible donation to this wonderful 501c3 organization, visit their website at www.bwar.org. Help to realize Brother Wolf's vision when no animal is euthanized for lack of a home.
Who's a good boy?
I bet if you got 9 people jogging, the 10th could ride the sweat on the surfboard. Hi, I'm Marty Winston with the News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America, this time Audio-Technica high-res headphones. We've long been fans of Audio-Technica headphones, and that's no less true since we got in their new ATH MSR7NC for review. It's a full-size, high-res audio headphone with cups that surround the ears. The reproduction fidelity is excellent, but we're leaving out an important feature. You can flick a switch on the rim of the left housing to activate active noise canceling. That works well enough to erase the sound of both an in-room air conditioner and me tap dancing on the office floor protector, and it handles that without compromising the audio you want to hear. That's a shortcoming of many products in this category. Bottom line, the Audio-Technica ATH MSR7NC headphones are a great way to listen to what you want to hear and reject what you'd rather not. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. Now, 33 minutes past the hour. As thank you, Marty Winston, for that. But yeah, we're heading into the end of the show here. It's gone by so quick.
Yes,
as we are doing all things Linux here with Marcel Gagné, and and we are just finishing up with Kodi.tv, which I think, there's been a lot of different like Kodi.tv looks better polished than I would say even some Roku, some Apple,
Yep.
kind of
I agree.
advertisements I've seen. It's so well polished for such an open source thing.
No, I agree completely. I was actually, I hadn't looked at XMBC for a long time. I mean, I actually loaded it up on something 5 years ago or something like that, a long time ago. I mean, none of this stuff was built into it at the time that I was looking at, and it certainly wasn't built for streaming services at the time. I mean, it just, there's nothing like that. So I was kind of blown away by what was available, and of course, when I looked at it as Android TV, when I noticed that my local Best Buy was selling it as Android TV, I thought, well, if it's Android TV, then presumably, like even before I bought it for my dad, I thought, if it's Android TV, I wonder if I can install it on my tablet. And lo and behold, I can install it on my tablet. And I also found out I can install it on my Ubuntu desktop. In fact, it was as simple as typing apt-get space install space Kodi. That's it. It's there. And because I knew because I had already read up on how to install the additional probably the most popular repository for add-ons, which is Fusion, by the way, fusion.tvaddons.ag, is the most popular. I was able to, play my Bengali station, but I was wickedly impressed by how easy it was to do this, and how slick it looked. Frankly, I hadn't realized that it had developed to this point. It's obviously not something that I was staying on top of, that I was keeping track of. So I'm wickedly impressed, and in fact, I'm not sure that I'd buy another Roku, to be perfectly honest, despite the fact that I love my Roku. I'm not sure that I'd buy another one at this point, just because of the incredible flexibility. Not to mention the fact that what I use my Roku for more than anything else is Netflix, which
doesn't Roku have the voice command remote though? You can
does it? I don't know. My Roku 3 does not.
No, the Roku 4 has a
okay.
command remote, and
that would be cool.
That seems to be the latest cool thing to have on these types. So Apple has the voice as Siri actually. Roku has a voice command. A lot of the cable companies are not coming with voice command as well. It all depends how important that is to you. I would imagine. I mean,
Okay, Google, open Kodi.
Who's Kodi?
Yeah, exactly.
It's that simple. There we go. It's fired up. See, I mean, that's how difficult this is.
Very cool.
Very cool.
All right.
We live in a world of magic.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
Where your voice is going to be controlling everything. But according to the show notes here, we have one more topic to talk about.
All right, yeah.
And this is actually one that I'm looking forward to, because this is actually what I'm going to be behind the scenes. I'm currently using something, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, Marcel, but it's called XSplit Broadcaster.
Yes, I am familiar with it, yes.
Right, yeah. That's what I'm currently using, but here in about a week or even less, I'm actually, guaranteed now. I'm going to be switching over to open source, or I'm sorry, open broadcasting software. So I actually know about OBS this time. I actually know about something we're going to talk about. Who knew?
This is kind of interesting because I have spent. I told you last month that I was sort of playing with the idea of doing a YouTube cooking with Linux. Okay. I wanted to sort of throw in the idea, like sort of what we do here on the show, but but very much in. I mean, I post stories to Cooking with Linux. I have my Cooking with Linux website, and and I post things there. I post stuff on Google Plus, which I mean, I post things about a whole pile of things, but I continue posting things about Linux and open source because it's a passion of mine. And I thought it'd be fun to do stuff like that. And I have last month I had a customer that said, can you do a screencast or something, because we get like about 15 people that need to know how to use this thing. And I mean, I can make them all read it, but it'd be nice, I mean, you could come and visit us, but you're like 3 hours away, so that's probably not going to happen. Could we all watch it online or something? And I thought, well, I could probably record you a screencast video. So I started looking at screencast applications. There are all sorts of things, by the way. I mean, there's something that you can download in Chrome. In fact, I think it's called Screencastify, of all things. Yeah, Screencastify. But it has limitations, and one of the limitations, of course, is if you want to use it for commercial applications, it's limited. You have to do additional things. And frankly, I actually tried it, and it's fine, but it didn't give me the flexibility that I was looking for. So I downloaded a whole bunch of different applications for Linux, and there are tons of them, by the way, for desktop recording of varying qualities. Be perfectly honest. I mean, some are not bad, some use formats that I wouldn't necessarily want, some aren't quite as good. And then there was one I found which was called GTK Record My Desktop, or Record My Desktop, all one word. And it wasn't bad. I was able to actually record, and in fact I did the screencast for my customer using GTK Record My Desktop. So I should probably throw a link in there so that people find it in the show notes. But it sounded really pretty good. I was impressed. It can select a specific window as opposed to just having your whole desktop running, and it records it in OGV format, so an open standard. And then of course, if I wanted it to be MP4 or something like that, then I convert, to MP4. So there was an additional step there, but no biggie, no biggie. And often what I do is I import the video that I've done into something like a KDEN Live, KDENLIVE, which is a, it was built around KDE, the KDE desktop, but it's a linear video editor. Another one that's popular is Pitivi, P-I-T-I-V-I, which is popular with the people who are running the GNOME desktop. Anyway, so doing some final tweaking, some final editing on the video, clipping the beginning, the end, stitching a couple of pieces together, I was prepared to do that anyway. So if I had to export it, then that's fine. But then I got into this site because my son does video streaming on Camcord. And I had been playing with the idea of using Google's live gaming because, as you pointed out, Ben, as we brought it up, I like to do a little gaming online as well. By the way, I game under Jugdish, Jugdish, G-I-D-I-S-C-H, Jugdisch, in case anybody wants to look at it there, or you can look for Freethinker at Large or Marcel Gagné on YouTube. So I've got posted videos that I've posted on YouTube. Some of them are gaming videos. So I thought, hey, what if I could do the Cooking with Linux stuff, and I could do some gaming every once in a while when I feel like doing gaming, with my son, or just gaming videos just for the heck of it. And then of course I thought, or we could do live gaming. That would be interesting as well. But again, there were some limitations depending on the software that I was using, and so I ran across OBS, Open Broadcasting Software. And for people who want to check it out, it's available for Macs, it's available for Windows, and it's available for Linux. So you've got open source. It's an open source project.
You have to have Mac OS 10.8 or later for the Mac.
Oh, I don't know what that means.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Craig.
Okay.
Well, even if it doesn't work with the latest, with your latest version of your version, you can always go to, some website that has the, the archives of old versions, and those are easily accessible.
Okay, well, there you go. There you go. So there's an answer from Ben for you, Craig.
Right. No, no, I understand. No, but the point, what Ben has will work great because it works with Windows 7, 8, or 10.
Yes.
Yes, 10. The thing is, again, it says OBS is completely free, not a dime. There are no subscriptions, no payments at all. It's available to everyone with source code publicly available. So basically, what Ben is using right now, which is it the split broadcaster?
XSplit. Yep.
Yeah.
Split, yes.
Yeah, and he has to pay a monthly fee, I believe, for that to use it. So now you'll be able to use this, and will it be just as good, or?
Well, let me ask Ben right off the bat. Have you tried it yet? Have you tried OBS yet?
You know, I was using it first when I first started to, you know, I had great aspirations to be a video game kind of playing on the side kind of thing, and I used it for a little bit for that, but for the show I needed something, you know, because I don't want to brag here, but I kind of set up the whole, you know, better looking show, you know, what have you, and it was a little complicated. You know, it was a little technical for what I did, but after using XSplit for a little while, like that was kind of like hold my hand, show me how to do this, and then once I became very, very familiar and very, very comfortable with what I did with XSplit, doing it with OBS, I'm actually trying to set it up here. I'm trying to work on sponsors here, but if you're watching the video portion, you know, this. Oh, whoops! Actually, that's way too much. But yeah, no, it's I'm actually setting it up here, and it does everything, and then some that XSplit does for free.
Wow.
Well, I mean, when I looked at it the first time, I mean, I actually tried it about 2 weeks ago for the first time, and I thought, I cannot figure out what the hell this thing does. I mean, I have no idea. I'm too frustrated. I need to get this video out for this customer, so screw it. And I forgot about it. And about a week ago, I really got down in earnest with the idea that I wanted to do this cooking with Linux stuff. I was going to do some cooking with Linux videos. I was going to make them available with the web, you know, and I wanted to do some gaming. And I thought, you know, I should go back and have a look at OBS again. And this time, I actually sat down and took some time to learn it. And let me tell you that. And I'll for anybody who's interested in this at the moment, first of all, the quality of the recordings was fantastic. Okay, the sound was great. The ability of the video to keep up with even my Core i3 notebook was fantastic. It was creating videos in MP4 perfectly, okay, without a hitch. And I thought, wow, I could have started with this before. I mean, I was stuck for time, so I didn't really have a choice. But here's how it kind of works. You've got two screens when you take a look at it, and Ben, you had a picture up on the screen, but you've got two screens, one on one side and one on the other. And on the left-hand side, you can set up what's called scenes, okay? And you can have multiple scenes, and scenes are basically portions of your show that you're going to transition from one to the other. So one could be a screen with a webcam active. One could be a particular game that you've got going. One could be a video or something that you've got going. So you can set up these multiple scenes, and then each scene has a source. The source can be the desktop. The source can be a text screen, or it can be a banner for your show, or a startup animation, or a closing credits for your show, that sort of thing. So you've got all these little bits and pieces for your show that can be like that. And then remember, open broadcasting software can do both streaming and recording. So I'll concentrate on recording at the moment. So what you do is you've got all these scenes that you can transition either by cutting directly to the scene. Okay, so in between the two scenes, the left and right, you've got a transition, which can be either cutting or fading. So you can fade into the screen, and then you can decide how long it takes to fade into it. It's in milliseconds. The default is 300 milliseconds, but I found for some of the stuff that I was playing with, I wanted to do 3-second fade, just a slow fade, at the introduction of the show. So you can modify all that. You can specify all that with each one. You can record desktop audio as well as the audio from your microphone, and you can adjust the levels of each independently, which I don't have to tell you is important if you've got game audio going in the background, and you don't want to have to scream over top of your game audio.
Currently, Ben.
Go ahead, Ben.
Currently, with Split, he can't do audio right now. You can only see. You can't hear it.
Well, I kind of taken that out of the equation because I'm not really recording. But XSplit, to be fair to XSplit, you can do audio recording through XSplit, but yeah, I just don't do it for what I do.
Yeah, for streaming though, I would think it would be kind of cool.
Well, for streaming, I mean, it's important. It depends on whether you want, like, I mean, if what I'm doing is I'm recording Linux desktop stuff, like I'm showing somebody how to work with a word processor or something, obviously the background audio is not a big deal. You need to be able to hear my voice, so I need to be able to record my microphone and stuff. The background audio is important. If you're doing gaming, the background audio is important. You like that. I mean, that's why the little sounds, the little soundtrack, is actually important. And sometimes, like if you're playing Minecraft or something, the only way that you know that something's sneaking up on you is because you can hear the sound of the thing sneaking up on you, right? So anyway, so you've got your left-hand side, which has got all your scenes, which are defined by whatever your source happens to be, whether it's a screen card or whether it's a particular window or something. You can set up hotkeys so you don't have to pop up the OBS window all the time. So you can say, if I want to switch between scene 1 and scene 2, it's Alt 1, Alt 2, Alt 3, Alt 4. You define keystrokes, whatever they are, and then you've got so you can do all this stuff with a keyboard now. So you don't have to have this thing up and running. You click the button to start recording, and away you go. It records until you stop recording. And by the way, even the start and stop recording can be mapped to a specific key sequence. So you can use whatever makes sense to you so that you don't have to have that window up and running all the time. Now, Ben's talking about streaming. So the other side of this, of open broadcasting, which is really cool, is the streaming. So you've got a button that says, studio mode, by the way, just rotates the screen up and down, so that it's you inside a studio as opposed to a screen. But that's about as far as that one goes. So if you go into settings, you can define what your sources are for microphone sources, whether when you're streaming, whether you automatically record when you're streaming, which is kind of cool. So if you're doing if you're doing some live gaming and you're streaming, maybe you want to do a record, maybe you want to record locally, so you can edit it and do something for it later on. It lets you do that. Okay, you can hide the cursor. You can do all sorts of really cool things.
Or as a backup. You can use the recording as a backup for the live streaming or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, Ben.
Just one of my favorite things that is really the true reason of switching from XSplit to open broadcasting software is how lightweight it is compared to open broadcasting, or how lightweight it is compared to XSplit, because XSplit will eat up sometimes. My computer isn't the fastest; it's 3.5 gigahertz. I'm sorry, and it'll still eat up 10, 15, 20% of my computing power. Whereas you can see here with OBS, it's only eating up 2.9 down to 1%. It's very, very lightweight compared to.
I found the same thing. Like I said, it was I couldn't believe how clean it was. And where GT recorded my desktop, I took it down to 15 frames per second to get a decent recording, which obviously if I'm gaming is not ideal. I'm recording in OBS at 30 frames per second, and it's barely impacting it at all.
Right. There's that, and then there's for anyone out there who decides to do this, you're gonna have to learn about a lot of these settings in here, or at least there's a few key settings, including video bitrate, although that's for streaming, of course. Mm-hmm. Video bitrate 3500 is kind of what I use for everyday things, and then one other thing that I've recently learned about is that you can kind of have the monitor set to like my monitors are 1920 by 1080, so 1080p, but you can actually scale down the output so it's actually cleaner than you're sending out down to, let's say, 1280 by 720, which is 720p, still HD, but it's going to look a lot cleaner and be a lot less stressful for your network.
Yep.
So a lot of cool settings in OBS.
Oh, absolutely. And then we get to the streaming services. I mean, I've got the link there to Google Live Gaming. Google recently, I don't know how recently, this was a few months ago, opened up their live gaming service. So you can go online and stream to Google. And what's cool about it is it will auto, record it for you to Google if you want. So so I only actually experimented with it a couple of times. I did it again this morning. I had meant to not this morning, yesterday I did it. But I had meant to go back and try it out. But it's not just Google Gaming. There's Twitch, which is obviously the probably at the moment the
biggest
600-pound gorilla of live streaming. So you can stream to Twitch, Hitbox. What have we got? Daily Motion,
Daily Motion, Facebook Live,
Camcord. I didn't even know you could stream a camcorder. That's so cool. My kid is going to freak out on this. Yeah, because he's a big camcorder gamer.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, tons of things. Facebook Live. You can stream.
It's so easy to set it up too. I was gonna say that it's so easy to set up too because like you go to the service, you set up an account, and you get something called a stream key, and it's a huge, whatever hexadecimal, code.
And you only enter it once. You only need to enter it once.
And you're done. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So at that point, you click your button, you start streaming, and you are live on the air from your desktop.
So when out of curiosity, no pressure, Ben, but when do you think you're going to switch to OBS to open broadcast?
The only reason, and I'll be very open about this, that for our sponsor thing on our video portion, you can see it switches images there. Mm-hmm. Something that wasn't on there 2 weeks ago when I installed this and started looking into it. Something that wasn't there was the image slideshow. It was in the earlier version of OBS, like they had OBS Broadcaster and OBS something or like a Gamecaster or Gamecast, and something that they took out from from the new version because they updated it for DirectX 11 and it used to be in the DirectX 9 was they didn't have slideshows anymore. They took those out, and just today I opened up OBS because I'll just show it to everyone as I go there. It's like, oh, there's an update, and like the first feature there was, we've added the image slideshow source, and I'm like, well, that's all I needed. So, probably before next week.
There was an open source philosophy. Well, it's not because it's still an open source philosophy, but it's release early, release often.
Right.
So you don't wait until it's absolutely perfect, because you know what? It's never going to be 100% perfect. And if you release it out to the community, if you release it out to people, there are countless people out there who are you take a look at companies that are doing closed source stuff, and then they say, we've got a closed beta, and people are clamoring, they're falling over themselves to be beta testers. So you know what? There's no lack of beta testers out there. So if you're designing software, and in the open source world, we're doing this for a long time now, if you're designing open source software, you release it. I mean, it's functional, it works. Release it. You know what? If people use it, they'll get back to you. They'll offer suggestions. They'll find your bugs for you. It's it's free help.
Yeah. I gotta say, this is the first time, and I can't remember how long we've been doing the Linux shows, but this is the first show that we actually completed the list.
Shocking, I know.
We got through everything today. Wow.
Well, I really wanted to cover these two topics, the last two, namely the Kodi and the live streaming. I desperately wanted to cover those things, so I may have actually, as I realized how fast the time was, I may have actually just trimmed down a couple of things on purpose there.
And next time we come back, obviously, according to Ben, we'll actually...
Wait, there's another one? I thought that if we finish the list, that means Linux is done. I thought that's how that worked.
No, so when we come back next month, he's going to be using the Open Broadcaster software, and we'll see how it goes. You'll be one of
Well, hopefully for the end user, if I do it right, nothing should change for you.
Nothing should change, right? Exactly. But Marcel will get to see it, and
I'll get to rub your nose in the fact that you're using open source software, baby.
I
rub away.
I have used many open source things. I never gave the proper credit. I never contributed. I never donated. But I'll use the crap out of it. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, this is terrific. This is really, really great, and especially as he said, the slideshow's ability has just been put back into it. So, We're looking.
That was the only thing to keep me back because I was trying to figure out a solution that I need 4 different images to scroll across the screen. I was like, well, I could manually keybind them to 1, 2, 3, 4, and then every 10 seconds one next.
Yeah, there's
10
only so
seconds.
much. Yeah, there's only so much key binding that you actually want to
Right.
do. It's like,
So-
oh, what was I doing there?
So
You gotta keep
slideshow helps immensely.
Yeah.
You know, what you
Marcel.
said about if we finish the list, we're all done.
Mhm.
Well-
There's a story from 1970 by Arthur C. Clarke called "The 9 Billion Names of God." You ever read it?
Yeah, but I wanted you to tell our listeners what you're up to.
Oh, sorry. The big thing I'm up to, which, like I said, I've been sort of banging my head over for the last couple of months. I hinted at the idea that I was looking to do this, but I am going to. In addition to continuing to do my business here and so forth, I'm actually going to be doing more live gaming. So if you want to check out some of the things that I'm going to be doing, and I'll be making videos available on YouTube. You can search for Marcel Gagné on YouTube, and I'm also, or you can look for me as a Free Thinker at Large. I'm on Twitter as WFTL, which is Writer and Free Thinker at Large, WFTL. On Twitter, you can find me on Facebook, on Google+. I'm kind of all over the place there. But I'm also going to be starting to produce some Linux videos, cooking with Linux videos available on YouTube. I may even do something insane like live stream some Linux desktop stuff, which would be like completely insane. But I may try it anyway. So that's kind of the big thing. I've got it down pat. I've been playing with open broadcasting software for the last 3 or 4 days here. I think I'm getting comfortable enough that I'm ready to start to start putting some stuff out there under Cooking with Linux on, and I'll even create a separate channel for it on YouTube. So, but it'll be under Marcel Gagné on YouTube, Free Thinker at Large.
Excellent.
Cooking with Linux.
All right, excellent. Marcel, stay with us to the end. Thank you so much for being with us here, and we're looking forward to having you with us next month, and hopefully your internet will be up and running as well.
It's working now.
Coming up tomorrow, of course, that's a Friday show. We're going to have a social media winner of the week, and in the first hour, we're going to have a company called 500px. And this is a website that lets you showcase your photographic work. You can license amazing photos. It's really very cool.
Not to be confused with P90X.
No.
Completely different business model.
Yeah, no, 500px. And then the second hour, we'll do computer and technology news brought to you by Slimware Utilities. Listen, thank you all so much for being here with us. And Ben and I will see you tomorrow, same place, same time, same station. So until tomorrow afternoon, this is Craig Crossman, hoping that your hard disk never becomes floppy. Thanks for doing that, Marcel.
You're welcome.
We'll see you Friday.
Have a good one, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
10 seconds.
9, 8, 7, 6. Cheers.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Okay. Hey, Marcel, thanks so much for being here, and I'm really excited about what Ben's going to do with that open broadcaster software.
Well, it'll be interesting because presumably by next month both of us will have done a reasonable amount with it. Probably Ben will have done more than me because he's going to be rolling it into the show. But it'll be interesting to see what we've both put together by the time next month rolls around.
Absolutely.
The only thing that I kind of need help with, and of course this isn't something that anyone here can help me with, is seeing transitions. Because like if you've ever seen like transitions, like go to CNN or something like that, and it's like the star swooping in and going out, you can actually add those graphic transitions instead of swipe, fade, that kind of thing. So you can actually put custom transitions in, which is what I need to work on.
Cool.
So.
Well, you'll have plenty of opportunity, I'm sure.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
All right, Mark.
Okay.
All right, Marcel, again, thanks so much for being with us. Again, thank you to all of you for watching us, and we'll see you tomorrow. All right?
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Marcel.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, buddy.